and Human Capital Development, the Honorable Justin Muturi, is going to be making his inaugural visit to the Huduma Kenya Secretariat offices, and this is at the Huduma Center, the Huduma Contact and Telecounseling Center that is based in the capital Nairobi at GPO. Then also happening at the Safari Park Hotel, we've got the Prime Cabinet Secretary, who's also the Cabinet Secretary for Foreign Affairs and for Foreign and Diaspora Affairs, the Honorable Musalia Mudavadi. And we also have got the Cabinet Secretary for National Treasury and Economic Planning, the Honorable John Mbadi, the Kenya Revenue Authority Board Chairman, Mr. Anthony Mwaura, and the Kenya Revenue Authority Commissioner General, Mr. Humphrey Watanga. They will be addressing, the public and those who are, especially those who are doing import and export trade, about the KRA Summit for 2024, which is themed Powering Trade Facilitation and Domestic Resource Mobilization in the Digital Age. We've got our business team that is covering that. And also remember, every 2 years, the Council of Governors has got a change of office. That's another story that we shall have our eyes on. Kirinyaga Governor Anne Waiguru has served the terms as the chair of the Council of Governors over 2 years each. And so there's going to be a change of guard at the helm of the leadership of the County Bosses Lobby Group. So the governors who have been making their moves and trying to make sure that, make their headway and see that they get, to hold that position. We've got Governors Ahmed Abdullahi of Wajir County, the Honorable Governor Mutahi Kahiga of Nyeri, Governor Johnson Sakaja of Nairobi, Governor Joseph Olelenku of Kajiado, and Governor Mudhomi Njoke of Tharaka Nithi. And taking a look at it, we've got no less than 3 second-term governors who are going for the top seat. So those are part of the stories that we are going to be keeping tabs on within our news cycle this morning. So all that right here on Sports Check this Monday morning. But now straight to our first conversation, and it is about the stories. Depending on which generation you come from, some say there are those who use the simple terms lifting weight. There are those who say you're pumping, kuinua chuma, depending on where you come from. But all of it is all around your fitness and making sure that you're in tip shape and how it works for that. And at the end of the day, there are those who do it as a pastime, and there are those who do it professionally and compete besides training others into that. So this weekend, we've got the Mr. and Miss East Africa Bodybuilding Championships. They will be taking place at the Sarit Expo Center. That is on the 12th that evening. So there is a lot that we are going to see. And the different weight classes that will be competing, how do they categorize those people? Because you may look at somebody, think they weigh 90 kgs, but when they tell you their weight, you do get surprised. And what about to do that? The event organizers are here with us, and one is actually a champion bodybuilder. We go ladies first. Evelyn Okinyi, welcome.
Thank you.
And also we've got Kelvin Wangi, who's also a fitness trainer. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, and let's just start with this. I'll start with you, Kevin, before I come into this. Is looking at the other 2 editions of the Mr. and Miss East Africa Bodybuilding Contest. The 2024 edition is different. Last year you were in Eldoret.
Yes, the first and the second one.
The first
based in Eldoret.
At Rupa's. Now,
Mall.
let's talk about this third one and the lessons learned from the first 2 events.
The lessons learned from the first 2 events is first, we noticed that most of our traffic was obviously coming from Nairobi. So, they're going through the cost of things like accommodation, transport. So we wanted to give them some extra convenience. And that's why we decided to move it closer to Nairobi, which is also more central when it comes to also looking at things like logistics, because also we are hosting athletes from all over Nairobi. So they're also landing in Nairobi and then having to connect to Eldoret. So we decided to now make it more convenient to have it more at a central location.
Right. That is in terms of the overall planning, because majority of those. And what about for those who are coming in from, other countries? Last year we had Majuru from
Tanzania.
Eric Majura from Tanzania winning the men's division.
Yes.
Over the overall men's division.
Yes.
Just tell us how you handle those from outside.
In terms of awarding? Or,
No. You know, the logistics for the non-Kenyan competitors.
So for those, the logistics, we have like a WhatsApp group where now all the registered athletes are able to now ask their questions if they're having trouble when it comes to probably transport, accommodation. That's where we're able to assist them on where they can get more convenient, locations where they can live, and also based on proximity to the venue, so that there is less of a hassle when it comes to them commuting and getting to the event.
Okay, so now let's come to you, Evelyn. And you have been competing not just in the local scene but also outside of Africa. Just give us, a whole outlook onto the bodybuilding scene in East Africa and Africa as a whole before we come down to Kenya, about how you get these athletes ready for this.
Okay, first of all, I must start by saying that muscle is an organ of longevity, and being that this is a very beautiful sport in itself, because you get to gather muscle for the purposes of competition, but it does not only benefit you in that purpose, it also benefits the fact that your health and fitness is top-notch. But apart from that, in other aspects, when I look at the development of the sport and how much it has developed and come up, I'm very amazed at the number of athletes we are currently having, especially when it comes to this championship, which has since grown from the initial point where the sport was not, known, and right now everybody knows that we are going to have this championship. As a pro bodybuilder, it takes a lot of effort, especially because we are, I'm not shy to say this, we are in an athletic-dominated country, or rather...
Actually, it's true. Kenya is an athletics country. We say we love foreign football.
Yes, we say we love a lot of sports, but I think we focus a lot of our energy towards athletics. Yet something like bodybuilding has a big fan base. We have so many athletes. This championship itself is going to host over 200 athletes from all over East Africa, yeah, and of which that lineup has women in it, right? Women who have worked so hard and are showcasing muscle, right? So this is just amazing for me. Yeah, I feel like it's like leaving a legacy in itself, because when I started doing this, there were very few women, and we were far apart, who were able to stand on stage in bikinis and we were being criticized for doing so. And right now they understand that just like swimming, it's a sport.
Well, actually, I'll be coming to that, attracting women to get into this sport. And looking at, the numbers that you have as organizers and how you are able to break them down such that you can have this event within one good evening, as you do eliminate them and all that. Just give us, a whole outlook as to how you manage this.
First of all, the event actually runs from 9 a.m. to late into the night on Saturday 12th at Sarit Expo. And apart from that, there are different divisions. Divisions it's an athlete and a coach may decide a division, but that is purely based on how the body looks like against the parameters that have been put. For example, let me try and explain. I am a wellness athlete, which means my lower body naturally is heavier than my upper body. In short, I am the African hourglass of bodybuilding. Yeah. There is bikini, which what an African would say, the skinny athletes. So they are petite, but they have muscle in that skinny body, right? And then there is the figure, which are more muscular, and they kind of appear to be, triangular in shape, but they're not triangular per se. It's called an X shape. So there's a shape they portray that is called an X shape. This shape is also needed of, let's say, bodybuilders' physique. So it depends on the structure of the body. That given aside, the classification is also done according to the weights.
So the first three that you've given apply to women?
Yeah.
Yes.
And there are more categories for women, but in this particular championship, we are going to run with these three, first of all. Then for men, we have different categories as well. determined by the same.
So let's talk about, because you've spoken about the three, and what, how do you then pick somebody? Okay, for example, you said about the hourglass.
Yeah.
Now that, use a simple term, it's simply first look at the athlete and visual and place them there. And every athlete knows they're coming into that.
Yes, you see, they're judges. An athlete gets to decide that I'm competing. You know, an athlete can decide that I'm running 100 meters, for example, if it's an athletic competition, right? And they feel they are able to run 100 meters. So the judge or whoever is the referee or whoever will not tell them not to run the 100 meters.
The clock will...
Exactly.
The clock will catch them.
Exactly. So it is up to the athlete and the coach to decide which category they feel the athlete best fits. Once they decide that, they will compete against each other. All right? So they compete against each other to get the winner of the division. That is how it works. Yeah.
Okay. So there it is. And the other one that, you know, everyone takes a look at, and let me come to Calvin, is the weight divisions. Because we look at different different athletes, different builds, people, different, how would I classify, different skeletal frames. Just tell us how you categorize these people and the weight divisions that you use.
So for the men, we usually have the most athletes as compared to women. And of course, we say people have different body types, right from the small, the lightweights, going to bantam, light, heavy, all the way to the super heavy. So when you look at this, when all the athletes come, we also have, we separate them into two classes, class A, B, now also depending on the height, which is also one of the lessons we've learned. Unlike the previous competitions where you'll get all the athletes coming in regardless of whether you're tall or short. You can imagine you can get somebody who's short weighing 80 kilos and somebody else who's tall at the same weight. And when you look at the muscle density, it will not be the same. So you'll not be able to compare them.
A rugby prop and probably a 400-meter runner.
Yes. So we usually we split them into now the two classes based on height, and then now have now the winner of the class A and B come and battle it out now to get to the final.
Okay.
Yes.
What's the threshold for height? How tall would you be? What would be the height you're looking at?
Really, there is no threshold, because you see some things you can't dictate that.
Let me just try and okay. Let me say I stand at 5 foot. I stand at 5'9". There's somebody who probably stands at 6'1", 6'2". But for me, I am short but stout. For him, he's lean.
Now, depending on the number of athletes, we'll be able to now. If you have majority being short, now you see you can't say all the short are competing, separately against each other, and maybe the only few tall men. So we'll also look at the numbers, so that now we're able to know where will be the cutoff to now separate those two classes.
Oh, so it's ideally the numbers, and so it's, yes, to use a correct term, you just average them.
Yes.
All right. Now, let's now come to, preparing for this event. And this is where I would like you to come in and demystify this sport, so that people don't see, bodybuilding as, a sport where people bulk up so that you can be dressed, become one of the men in black. Their services offered are usually at times not so pleasant. But Evelyn, you've got a very interesting story for you to get into this, and how you've transformed, from those days when everyone would just make fun of you, and now everyone is in awe of you. Yeah.
So I think it's very interesting. There's the first bit that you've mentioned there, that bodybuilders are sometimes stereotyped, because I'll say it's a stereotype because it's not the exact scenario. To only, in fact, I don't know why people would come to me to ask for bouncers. Just the way you can know a bouncer, I would know one. But if
it has happened,
yeah, people will ask me, and it's not like I have bouncers somewhere. Most of these people have career jobs. I was a banker. They're doctors. There are people of all sorts of career doing bodybuilding. So the random assumption that having muscle means that you are a bouncer is very misplaced in itself, right? I would know a bouncer just the way anyone else would. Yeah, but that aside, it's interesting to grow into it, especially in Africa, because it's taken a bit of time, especially in Kenya, for people to be able to understand what bodybuilding exactly is. And that's why we are very excited, especially with the upcoming event. This is an avenue to get to meet these people and interact with them and get to understand that, hey, bodybuilding is not about bouncers. You will interact with them, you will meet doctors, you will meet trainers, you will meet teachers, you will meet all sorts of people in different career. Yeah.
So to add on to that, back in the day, in the early 90s, you know, all the way to the early 2000s, bodybuilding, most people looked at the gym life because you need to allocate a lot of time to it. There's a lot of commitment. So most of the people who have a lot of time to their hands are people who probably don't have these white-collar jobs. So bodybuilding started in the slums. So now most people would now relate people who have good physiques as people who are not, you know, they don't have money or they have a lot of free time to, you know, go to the gym. So that's why
and
people
they use
look
it now
down the
for
sport. But
to eventually lift people up and
yes,
all of that.
But over time, things have evolved, and also through COVID, people have become more cognizant about their health and wellness. And so this thing has escalated. It's gone to the point that now fitness has really peaked. So you've even noticed that now gyms were mostly in the Eastlands, but now they've gone now to the upside of town, so you can get gyms also all over, in even malls.
Uptown gyms were treadmills at one point.
Yeah, and also just to add on to what he's saying, for me, when I changed my career from banking to do this, one goal that I really had is to create a reasonable career out of it so that somebody can be motivated to steer their path through it. And for sure, we have mentored, me and Kevin have mentored, and many other people out there have mentored successful people for sure. Yeah. And
here's the thing, you know, let me just come back to you, Evelyn. Your story is transformative. You know, from the moment you got into this and eventually quit banking and getting into fitness training, what has been your journey? What are the key transformations that you would tell? Because as you know, as much as this is a competition, people will be showing off all the bodies and all of that. You know, how well built they are, how chiseled and, you know, ripped they are. It's how your life changed in terms of health. Fewer doctor visits? Or
yeah, for sure. Fewer doctor visits. Initially, before I got into fitness, I had something that most ladies would understand. It's called cysts. And cysts can be very stubborn because it's caused by hormonal imbalance and their growth within the system that can cause you, like, for example, I had crazy acne on my face, like just boils on my face, and I was throwing up, I couldn't drive, my girly days were hectic and all that. But with the training, I even went for surgery, actually. I did go for surgery, but 1 month after my surgery, I had another cyst the size of an orange. And the doctor's recommendation was I should go for another surgery. Now, if you have been through surgery, 1 month down the line, your stitches are not even properly, in fact, I got an infection, so my stitches...
This was what, a myomectomy?
It was laparoscopic.
Okay.
So the incisions were still raw, yeah, and the doctor was recommending I go back for surgery so that they can clean up again. So for me, I took time to get into study on how to help women, because I was like, this is too traumatic. I met a lady who had gone for 13 surgeries. That was too many surgeries for cysts. I cannot be going for surgery that often. And with that, I got into a study to try and help women as much as I possibly can. But it ended up growing more. So for me, the most rewarding part of my career is the number of people who we've been able to assist through fitness as a lifestyle. And of course, my medical is a very good example, because I used to check on my medical limit. Like really, like, okay, I cannot go to hospital again. We have to go over the chemist, and you know, in Kenya you can buy most of these things.
I mean, your employer as a banker then has given you a good medical cover, but you're blowing it.
Yeah, I'm blowing it. I have a good medical cover that should cover me, but I was blowing it. Right now, I thank God I'm only able to do checkups, clean my teeth, you know, check my eyes. Like I'm literally taking myself to hospital for general checkup. I never used to do that.
Ah.
Yeah.
All right, very interesting that, you know, she's mentioned that. Just reminded me of a program. One of our colleagues, Marie Yambo, does a program called Health and Lifestyle. And last evening she had a program, and it was actually just around this. I mean, it's actually about muscles, and I think most of the people affected are women. I'll be coming to that muscle, and because it's part of the training. Kelvin,
yes.
From the men's side, besides core body, the health and wellness aspects of this.
You see, as much as most people focus a lot on the aesthetics, it's only that now for you to make sure that you get that transformation, you have to adopt some healthy habits. And the healthy habits include now having a proper nutrition, and that's why we say bodybuilding is expensive, because it's heavy, you know, it's 80% nutrition. So they focus a lot in functional eating. Functional eating is where now you don't focus on eating food for taste, but you focus on eating foods that are rich in the nutrients. So at this point, when you're having these nutritious meals, then it means you stand a higher chance of building muscle. And as much as you're building the muscle, there's a lot of good you're doing from the inside. And then other than the nutrition, there's also the exercising. There's the hydration. There's the sleeping, where you have to make sure you have enough hours to sleep. So it also helps in addressing things like your mental state or your mental health, and also your physical and, you know, your general health and wellness.
Very interesting to that.
Yes.
We can see now on the screens that we've seen the videos of all those competitors. You can see how the time that you take through that. For anyone who wants to get into bodybuilding, this is, like they always say, the journey is not, people look for, we're in a country where everyone wants an instant result, one way or another. But what's the correct journey for anyone who's getting into this? For example, you've been 10 years out. No exercise. The most thing you probably do is walk or carry something heavy occasionally. Your monthly shopping occasionally. But what's the right way to get into this? A regime, even for recreation, I mean, just for yourself, not to get, you know, to the competition levels.
So on a personal level, I also do fitness consultation and body assessments. So I usually tell people it's just like driving. You can't just start by going on the, you know, the road and put an L stick and start driving. You need to start with the theory. So the education bit is very important, because you need to understand your body type. You need to understand whether you're healthy, whether you have any underlying conditions. You could be in the gym and running in the treadmill, and perhaps you don't know you have blood pressure issues. So you first need to understand yourself from that aspect, your body type, your wellness background, if you have any underlying conditions, and then now from the body type, now that will translate towards knowing the right routine, which you can adopt, which is now more of customized, as just compared to just going and doing something that is, you know, copy and paste. You're copying what other people are doing. And then also when it comes to things like your metabolic rate, we have different metabolic rates. Just the same, you'll find some people putting on weight faster than others, and others who will hardly put on weight. So when it comes to nutrition, we also need to be eating different. So that's why I usually say the education bit is important. And then now when you now enroll in a gym, now make sure you're also relying on a good facility with a well-certified trainer, so that you're basically in safe hands.
Okay. And to add on to that, I always highly recommend at least 3 days of resistance training, because muscle is an organ of longevity, and also, which means I would like to interpret this, and it means that I might not be able to tell you how long you will live, but the quality of life is likely to depend on how much muscle you gather around you, which means it will help you with diseases. Trying to maintain muscle will help you with diseases, will keep them at bay, and will keep your strength, so you are likely to not get injured all the time, just with a simple sleep, or maybe just lying down and things like that. And those are things that happen. So with that in mind, which means you need to do some resistance training. They say around 150 minutes, but we can say 3 days if you can do around 40 minutes to 1 hour, 3 days in a week, and also to eat for the muscle, which means you promote intake of protein to be able to sustain the muscle development. Yeah.
Well, very interesting. Now, the thing is this. Let me just give a scenario. Supposing I'm in shape, you know, at times round is a shape. Eh?
Yes.
So I'm just trying to be politically correct. But say I mean, with my frame, I weigh probably 110 kgs and I just need to get, then the doctor tells me, if you don't stay like this, very soon people will be, you know, wondering what it is all about. You know, your heart going sideways, your blood pressure and everything. How then do you get somebody from that kind of weight, from say 110 kgs to say, if ideally I'm supposed to be 70, lose that 40, 45 kilos safely?
What I say is the local person's way of describing their inches loss is weight loss. But ideally you can be 70, remain 70, but with compact mass, but smaller. So every time somebody comes to me that they want to lose weight, first I have to understand where they're coming from, the structure of their body, the composition of that body. Because maybe you want to lose size and you're talking about losing weight, because that is the natural communication of what you want. But ideally maybe you need some little muscle mass and in a smaller container.
Okay, to say my trouser has suddenly become 40 by 40.
Yeah. So I educate the person, first of all, because I realize that most people get so stressed about their weight on the scale rather than the body composition. So I educate the person the difference between the body composition and the weight and their relation, because both can be true. After that, then we go ahead and go back to now what to do. And weight training, I always highly recommend weight training because it will get you the results faster, and good nutrition.
All right.
Yes,
That
sir.
transition, you know, from a sedentary lifestyle to one active one, how do you help people go through that?
So first thing is, just like I said, it's the education. When you give it, when you
We've spoken about the education.
Yes.
Now, there is what people should know is that
Yes.
it actually takes away.
It takes time. It
takes
takes
time.
time. Yeah.
And that's why you see when you subject somebody to a lifestyle change where they have little or no information, chances are they'll only be consistent, because this game relies heavily on being consistent. So they'll probably be consistent for a week or a month or two. But the moment you empower them and change their mindset, because the thing here is mindset, so that they're able to now attach or rather connect dots or have logical explanations around some certain habits they need to stop and some certain habits that they need to adopt, regardless of how hard it is. Once you help them change that mindset, now you put them on a journey. You put them on a journey now for transformation.
Habits to stop,
Yes.
at least.
For me now, I make it's more of a personal thing, because you can't just have, you can't tell everyone, you know, you can't apply the same formula for everyone. For some people, for instance, drinking, for some, they network, they do business through, you know, going for these functions where there's a drink, and you can't go, for instance, in a golf club where you're the only one taking water and everybody, people would look at you suspiciously, like you're in the wrong group, but probably you're
there are
there
those
to
who
network.
do.
So for me, I would just preach moderation for some of these habits other than stop.
Okay.
And it also depends on your ultimate goal. Is it sports? Is it just recreation? Is it just health and fitness? So I wouldn't really say that you have to drop some habits, but it's dependent on your goal.
Those that must be adopted. Let's start with that. The must adopt.
The must adopt is clean or healthy eating, being, you know, staying hydrated, sleeping well, and making sure you move. You have to exercise, and at this point, just like my sister said, you have to embrace strength training.
Very good. Now let's come to that. And one of the things that people fear is pain, and there is the inherent, and then there is also the risk at times of, you know, muscle tears or something. How do you manage that?
One, the beauty of life is knowing pain, because through knowing pain, you're able to know the pleasures. Yeah, so it's something that we shouldn't run away from anyway. And for you to be different, you have to move different. And I can say for sure living a healthy lifestyle is different and takes a lot of effort. This is the real do-it-yourself. You cannot send an employee to go and work out for you. And with that, this is something when you achieve, you really get that pride and happiness in your consistency. So this is something to embrace, not to run away from, because through that physical pain that you endure, you also gather mental strength that helps you in other aspects of life, not just in strength training. Because you'll realize whatever disciplines and virtues you achieve during your training period, they actually follow you in your day-to-day living. If you train and you give up, if you look closely at every project you're doing, it is reflected, actually. So every time you give up, just go backtrack and look at your projects, your main projects, you'll realize the same happens. So it teaches you a lot of grit and a lot of, just being appreciative of your efforts.
Okay. Also to highlight on the pain, just to be a bit scientific, we yield muscle, or rather we grow muscle through repair. Because when you're training, there's tear and wear, so when it's repairing, that's how you're building. And you see, it's through the tear and wear, that's where you get the inflammation of the muscle, and that's where there's the pain, and because coming out from the soreness. And to help in that repair, that's where you need to sleep well. There's the aspect of nutrition, because you need some healthy protein and things like glutamine to reduce the inflammation, and good hydration, and that's what now helps you to build muscle.
Managing, for example, what you would call the muscle cramps. I have seen elite athletes training, and after that there are sessions they may have with their physiotherapists. Others may, before I actually come, for the elite ones is when I'll be talking about ice baths. Not those who really want it. But let's talk about how how to deal with some of these pains that come through with everyday training. We know there is the aspect of no pain, no gain, but managing, let's start with the muscle cramps.
All right, we'll start with the simpler solution, which basically is stretching after your workout. What stretching does, it increases your elasticity, so over time, you're able to move a wider range before the deep tear happens, which is also good for you. The other thing is hydrating. It is underrated how much your system needs water, hydrating and rest for recovery. You have to be able to hydrate, eat well, and rest. Because if you don't give food to that body, remember the muscles you tore will not repair adequately and on time. And without enough sleep, you will not get proper repair.
Good.
Now, when you want to move a step further, or if your training is too intense, then now we go for physio. And what that helps, it helps out with just, massaging deep into the tissue to make sure there's proper blood circulation to enable repair. On top of that, some people may go for things like ice bath. Personally, believe it or not, even as an elite athlete, I have never done an ice bath, but that is on my fear for cold.
But if I give you a cold glass of juice, you'll take.
Yeah, and I would do the ice bath if I have to, really. If my pains take me there, or if it's a solution for me, I'll do it. And it's something I've wanted to do. I'm just too scared.
I think she's nailed it. It's all about blood flow, making sure there's full range of motion of the muscle, and maybe to add to that, also about minerals, because there are also minerals like magnesium or the zincs that help in muscle health as well. So if their muscles are also lacking some of these minerals, you could also get those spasms.
Well, very interesting. Things that you were taught in high school and said they are boring is what we need every day. Now, let's talk about, and I'll just use a description of somebody who's got a proper six-pack. There is that line in the middle, and that's what I referred to from last night's episode of health and lifestyle, where at times you find that this muscle tears when people are doing that. How do you get somebody now back into training after some serious at times serious muscle damage may happen, which means it requires some different recovery? How do you help people go through that?
Well, abdominal separation can happen to both men and women, but it's more known to happen to women, especially during pregnancy. If the pregnancy is heavy, you're likely to get a tear. The tear can be as big as maybe 5 fingers, 4 fingers, and 4 we mean across. So if this is the tear, you put across like this is that wide. Yeah, so or 2 fingers and all that. So abdominal separation is something that you have to be aware of, especially when working with somebody who has gone through it, because there are exercises that can exert more pressure, or if the person carries very heavy weight, they can the tear can continue. So which means you might have to bind it. You might have to bind it during the workout using a belt, but also apart from that, you may have to do workouts that help it, like rotating workouts. Instead of crunching workouts for abs, you do rotating workouts to be able to help the abs and also to try and bind it. Yeah.
All right. Now let's come into the real competitive one. What we are seeing on the screen, and those are the ones now everyone says they are competing. What's the process of, getting to this level and, start competing? For example, when I look at, say, boxing, they say there's a novice, an intermediate before you can get to the elite amateur level. What's the process for this? And making sure somebody gets to this. And then after that, we'll come to how the judging is done, because it's very subjective. Kelvin, let's start with you.
So basically in all sports, we have those levels. You can come in as a beginner, then you can be on transition from beginner to intermediate, then there's the intermediate, then you can get into in transition to advanced, and then there's the elite or athlete. So of course this takes time. So at this point, when we're saying it takes time, it means you need to be consistent in terms of now the training, the nutrition, and as you keep advancing your sport, that's where you'll get some people now turning to things like now the supplements to now reinforce their fitness level, the quality of their workouts, and also the aspect of building muscles or yielding muscles faster. And in just a matter of time, they're able now to be in that competitive space.
Actually, let's talk about, you've mentioned nutrition and supplementation. How do you balance this so that people do not at times, replace food with supplements?
Yeah,
food will always come first.
Yeah, it's important to note that supplements nutrition. For example, I'll give a simple example, which is an example I normally give, is if you lack iron today and you needed additional iron, the doctor will give you an iron tablet, right? That is a supplement, an iron supplement. The doctor will not tell you, stop taking vegetables, stop taking liver, you'll only be taking this tablet for your iron, right? The doctor will still encourage you to do what? Take liver, take your green vegetables, and take this supplement, because it's supposed to boost your normal nutrition. Normal nutrition, vitamins, and whatever it composes cannot be replaced, because remember, most of these supplements are made in factories, which means they are, if it's iron, it's iron. It does not have iron and other vitamins. You understand? So nothing can replace nutrition. You can only supplement as an in addition to your food.
The other thing is the Anti-Doping Agency of Kenya at times, they've actually come to your space. I think some 2-3 years back, somebody was sanctioned. But what are you trying to encourage to ensure that whatever people use is actually safe in the long term? Some of the substances they may use may fall under the World Anti-Doping Agency prohibited list, but others may have some long-term effects.
All right, what I would do, I encourage actually any athlete to be aware of whatever they consume, because they can be subjected to tests at any given time. So it's normally put to the responsibility of the athlete to make that decision based on that fact.
During the first and second season, you were very heavy on seminars, which were now the ones that we are using that platform for the education.
Oh yeah, so that people do not, just go by, they actually know. Kwa nini hizo vitu zenu bana? Hakuna ile kadogo. It looks like all those things.
Kuna zenye ni ndogo. Kuna zenye ni ndogo. The only thing is that you see protein powder is like ni kama unga. So you see it's a big, even the scoop is not small.
Gorogoro ya supplements, they all look huge. It's something that people have observed. Now let's come to how this judging is done, because we are taking a look. I mean, you've brought in the judges. Just looking at this, you've got one from the United Kingdom, Robert Phil. You've got Mr. Daniels Look from Portugal, and also you've got Firdous Devraji from the US. Just how
South
is
Africa.
From South Africa. How is the judging done?
The judging is basically done. The different categories have criterias. For example, there are those that need deep cut on muscle. There are those that don't need deep cut on muscle. There are those that need athletes to be bigger. There are those that need a particular aesthetic look. So there are different categories that have different rules on them. And then with that guidance, whatever the person presents on stage, again, somebody can have very good muscle outside here, but when they step on stage, the comparison shows different. Why? Either the athlete did not present the muscle well, or, for example, they are better athletes than themselves, even though they looked good. It's just like, for example, we can have an athlete who wins all championships in Kenya, but when they go and stand on, in another competition with different athletes, he doesn't rank, or she doesn't rank as well. So it doesn't mean that they didn't practice, but the environment enabled that.
Presentation, you've mentioned that.
Yeah.
How you present a muscle.
Yeah.
And so I'll allow you to just present your bicep.
My bicep.
Just as it is, so that we understand how, if you're going to present this, how then would Kevin judge that?
Yeah. Well,
as compared to, okay, nothing here.
Yeah, just put it down. Yeah, so you see, when you have muscle here, I don't know if you're able to see really the muscle, but yeah, there's some muscle there. Yeah, as well. So if if you're told to do a double bicep, then definitely it will be popping, and it will be marked against another athlete who is also doing that right beside you there. So
you're all like this.
Yeah. So which means what is not properly defined is very visible. Yeah. So the different body parts are, scored. And after that, different judges make their score. If I'm a judge, I'm making my score, you're a judge, you're making your score, you're a judge, you're making your score. All these scores are passed on to somebody who is a statistician to do
an average.
Exactly.
So, okay, it's very part subjective, part objective, because it's now down to every judge and what they see. So key things that people will look at, because number one, kifua lazima itaangaliwa. So how, when it comes to what people call the wings, how then do you break it down, Kevin? Just take us through that. For example, the upper body judging. She's already talked about the biceps. Or no?
So there are usually some poses. So the judges will be directing for poses. If it's the back pose, there's the compulsory poses. So through those poses, that's how they are marked. So when you, for instance, if you're told you give us back double biceps, so they will mark that. If you turn to the front, so regardless of whether your front is good, if you give us your back and you don't score highly, you're going to be marked down. So it depends basically on what you're being directed to present and how you're presenting it.
So how eventually do you bring an all-round athlete? Because we know at times, at times there are those cartoons we will draw where you have bulked up, but what you have is, for your legs is...
So there's no perfect. So there's no perfect athlete. So there's everybody has their strengths and weaknesses. So it's only that now when you're posing, you focus more on your strengths, and where your weaknesses are, you try hard, probably to not, get them revealed so that you don't get marked down.
All right. All right. I think what you're trying to ask is how do we encourage someone to have an aesthetic physique in general, like to present themselves in such a way that they don't look, the upper body is different from the lower body.
Body symmetry.
The body symmetry. Yeah, no proportion.
You see that there is actually a word for body symmetry, actually. And it's, first of all, when you just walk into stage, are you symmetrical according to that category? Because again, categories are different and all that. So you will be looked at, and there's no category that will tell you, oh, don't train your upper body or don't train your legs. It just has to match whatever rules and guidelines for that particular category.
Oh, well, it's very clear. So if you're the person who usually lifts only with the right hand, just know you are going to fail from entry.
Yes.
Because you won't have the symmetry. Overall, expectations from the local athletes as we close this, Evelyn. You'll speak for the women, speak for the men.
Expectation from the local athletes is for people to buy tickets and come and cheer them. We cannot have a championship that is at home with little cheering. So they should go to ticketyetu.com and buy tickets for the bodybuilding show that is happening at Sarit Expo Center on the 12th of October, right? And at the same time, we want to win. I have seen amazing athletes. I don't know what Tanzania or Uganda or whichever other country Rwanda are bringing. All I can see is our athletes, and I'm amazed by the work they've put. They look incredible. They look like sculptures, really. So I am here cheering them on.
Works of art is what they've said.
So for the generally also for the women and men, but
kikombe kilienda kule Bongo bwana.
yes.
Narejea.
So this
must
time,
we say tunaomba urudishe?
So this time round it will be very hotly contested. I'm sure even the number one, Mr. Majura, is not sitting pretty. He knows that there's a lot of heat coming from both, even Kenya and also Uganda, but also from Tanzania themselves. There are people who are working hard to dethrone him. So us as a committee, we're just making sure that we give them the best platform to showcase their art, to showcase their talent. And we'll also have a briefing on Friday, this coming Friday. We'll be doing our weighing in and also, prepare them for the event.
That's why you decide if somebody's a bantam, a lightweight, a welter,
Yes,
heavy, super heavy.
Yes, when doing the weighing in, that's where now they're going to be put into different categories.
Okay.
Yes.
What time is that?
For the weighing in, that will be on Friday. We'll have a media launch first, and then now the weighing in will follow next.
Okay.
That's probably from afternoon.
Finally,
Friday.
these people shine. Normally, we know nobody shines like that. Hii nini upakwa?
So
tunapaka tan.
It's a tan.
So
it's a tan that is meant to help.
Cooking oil ama baby lotion.
Back in the day, they used to apply baby oil and also the cooking oil. But of course, as times are progressing, people are now using more professional tans, which help to now reveal the muscle definition, the striations, and those deep cuts.
Wanda walikuwa nasema kichipaka hiyo cooking oil, naona nimeiva.
You look a bit bigger.
Sawa. So you've had it Saturday, 9 a.m. till late.
Yes.
A display of all those works of art. And remember, the one message that we've picked is that if you're going to go through this journey, there is nothing like delegating that aspect of it. It is down to you. It's more like signing a check where you're the only account holder.
Yes.
That's the way it is. Thank you very much. Kevin Mwangi, event organizer of the Mr. and Mr. Africa Bodybuilding Championships, Saturday at the Sarit Center. Evelyn Okinyi, she's actually been, top in Africa, and so now she wants more of you women to come in. So don't be afraid of going to put in the hard work. And she's actually spoken from a health perspective, a total transformation. And one of the things now she doesn't actually go for is surgeries. But at that point, all surgeons were your friends.
You even know that. Yes.
So you can actually, keep fit and keep the doctor away. Asanteni sana.
Thanks for having us.
All right. See you Friday and Saturday at the weigh-in. That's where we see them first, and then the action on Saturday. We take our first break now. And when we come back, let's talk about the bat, the ball, the crease, the wicket, and the stumps.